Hey, let's chat about some Sony TVs. What's up, s'mores? I'm Shannon Morse. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Do y'all remember when I went to CES in January and there were like 1,000 TVs all talking about their new technology, but nobody decided on the same standardized naming convention? So we ended up with stuff like micro RGB and RGB mini LED and mini RGB Evo AI. Yeah, me too. It was very hard to tell what was going on. Then we had Sony, and they're naming their newest technology True RGB. Now, Sony recently invited me out to New York City to see how this stuff works in person. So today, I want to break down what Sony's doing with their new BRAVIA lineup, what True RGB even means, and why I think this matters for actual households, because I ain't sitting in a perfectly pitch black millionaire home theater cave, and you probably are not either. So Sony actually shared some statistics saying only about 13% of people watch content in a true reference environment, meaning most people are watching TV with sunlight coming through windows or lamps on in the background or whatever it might be, some kind of ambient lighting. That's gonna be real life. So here's the simplified breakdown, because TV companies just love making this stuff sound a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And if you've seen any of my older like DIY projects on past shows, you know that I've worked with LEDs before. So if you think back to how those LEDs work, that can really help with understanding what's going on here. So traditional mini LED QLED TVs usually use blue LEDs with a quantum dot layer to help create that color. Some of the newer RGB TVs on the market use a 2-diode setup with phosphor layers, helping generate additional colors, so they kind of mix them. Sony's True RGB setup uses independently controlled red, green, and blue LEDs directly. I have seen demos of these diodes in person, and I have some videos of those here, so I'll put a link to that video down below. While you are bookmarking those videos to watch later, by the way, if you are finding this video helpful, a subscribe is the best way to tell YouTube's algorithm that you actually do want to see more videos from me. Also, a big Patreon shout out to everybody who supports my content here on YouTube. You can join all the current supporters and support my channel by going over to patreon.com/Shannon Morse. That'll give you perks like early video access and access to my private Discord, where I'm logged in like every single day. As usual, all the videos on my channel are free to watch, even ones like this, where I don't have a monetary sponsor. Seeing tech in person certainly feeds the technolust. I love seeing everything that I can in person. I mean, that's why I like going to CES, but it does not feed the mortgage. So I thank my YouTube members and my patrons for making it possible that I can make you content like this video. Okay, so moving on, instead of relying on filters and extra layers to create color, individual colors themselves are being controlled separately when you have those separate diodes. So you get better color accuracy, smoother gradients, improved viewing angles back and forth, more consistent brightness, and better contrast in real-world rooms. So some of that branding we saw at CES uses true 3-diode systems. Several different companies are doing their own take on this. Some use 2, some use the blue LED, but the naming is not standardized, so consumers have to kind of educate themselves on the differences. So Sony is calling theirs True RGB. Now, last year I reviewed the BRAVIA 8 Mark II in my own living room, which is definitely not a perfect studio setup. I have giant windows all over the place. I have sunsets and sun lighting everywhere. I have ambient lighting from the kitchen, a bright room during the daytime, a very real, very not perfect environment for reviewing TVs. But I think that makes for a good environment to review a TV because it's real life, it's realistic. I'm not taking the TV into a pitch black room and saying this is perfect, because I actually want to take it into a place where you would actually install a TV. But that TV has held up incredibly well for me over the past several months as my main living room TV, and I've loved it. So now Sony is kind of combining what they learned from that BRAVIA 8 Mark II QD OLED TV with what they learned from the BRAVIA 9 mini LED lineup to create this new flagship RGB setup, which is using new technology. And this one is called the BRAVIA 9 Mark II. So they did let us see some of these TVs side by side, and I noticed some really big differences. First being the viewing angles. Color consistency here stayed much more stable even when moving around the room back and forth. Gradients also look smoother in person. You know those moments in darker scenes sometimes where they get harsh transitions between the shades, especially in backgrounds like in a sunset or things like that, instead of having that really smooth blending like you get when you're looking at a sunset in the real world. That looked a lot cleaner here. Now I'm planning to do a full review, but for today, let's just go over the news on these new products. So the actual lineup. First, we have that BRAVIA 9 Mark II. This is the flagship True RGB TV. This one comes in 65, 75, 85, and a huge, gigantic 115-inch model. That one includes Sony's highest-end RGB backlighting system, improved luminance boosting, smoother color gradation, wider viewing angles, and a new low reflection panel, which is called Immersive Black Screen Pro, and it looks really cool. The anti-glare improvements looked real good in person. Bright overhead lights and reflections are usually one of the fastest ways to kind of ruin that premium TV experience, and when you're paying so much for a TV, you want to get that premium TV experience. So seeing that reduced without destroying contrast was very impressive. Also, the stand is kind of gorgeous. Sony calls it the Mirage stand, and it has this reflective mirrored finish that almost makes the TV look like it's floating. It's lenticular, so you can't see the cables behind the actual stand, even if the cables are just kind of garbled up back there, which is really cool because I'm not the best at cable management. It's very fancy, very bougie looking. The 115-inch model gets a T-stand though, because it's big. It needs more. Then there's the BRAVIA 7 Mark II. This one is the more premium mid-range True RGB option. Still includes a lot of the same RGB benefits and image processing features, just without some of the higher end panel tech from the 9 Mark II. But it also starts at 50 inches and it scales all the way up to 98 inches. So there's a lot more sizing options here for actual normal homes. Speaker-wise, the 9 Mark II also gets upgraded tweeters for a fuller surround presentation compared to the 7 Mark II. Onboard audio sounds really impressive, but if you want a really nice experience, the BRAVIA Theater lineup for 2026 for audio also got some very cool new tech. So they're introducing BRAVIA Direct Connect, which wirelessly connects the TV and the speakers together for expanded surround effects, improved bass integration. This is going to roll out through firmware updates. Also, Sony is introducing the new Trio setup along with the sub 9 and rear 9 speakers for their ultra high-end home theater lineup. So I got to hear these in person already in a very fancy test room, and they were pretty freaking cool. We watched a scene from Dune 2. Oh my lord, Dune. Oh, dude, can you imagine playing Clear Obscure with like that kind of sound setup where it feels like you're in a theater? I'm currently playing that game and the music is so good. I bet pairing would be a lot easier with the audio sounding so like perfect around you. Pairing is so hard, guys. It's so hard. So the Trio setup includes a soundbar and 2 speakers with upgraded tweeters and woofers for clearer vocals and stronger high frequencies. There are also optional rear speakers and optional subwoofers if you want to slowly build out your setup over time. So overall, Sony's 2026 lineup feels a lot more focused to me. The BRAVIA 9 Mark II becomes the true flagship with the new True RGB technology. The BRAVIA 7 Mark II fills out that premium, like higher premium mid-range space, and the updated theater lineup really gives people more flexibility depending on their budget and room setup. The biggest takeaway for me is that Sony did not rush this RGB rollout. We have been hearing about RGB LED for a while now, and I would much rather see them take the extra time to make it actually look good in real life, in real world environments, instead of racing to slap a buzzword on a box first. Now, after seeing these in person, this feels like one of the more meaningful TV upgrades that we have gotten in a while. We're seeing new technology here, and it's very exciting, especially for people who want to watch TV in actual living rooms instead of those perfectly controlled demo spaces. Demo spaces are awesome, but I gotta get my hands on some of these TVs and actually put them in a real world environment. Let me know if you have any questions, if you like seeing these more educational type of news videos where we're being introduced to a new technology. I think it's really exciting and really fun to learn about those kind of things. So don't forget to subscribe below, and I'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.